want Republicans dead.
Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
The women with the least likelihood of getting pregnant are the ones most worried about having abortions.
On January 6th of 2021, you had tens of thousands of people peacefully protesting.
So, it's not a right-wing conspiracy theory. It's not QAnon. It's real.
So I know we're all thinking about who Kamala Harris is going to choose for vice president. And it's a legitimate question. It's a serious question. It's a question we really need to grapple with because it's coming up. The convention's racing toward us. It is going to get much louder and much crazier in the next couple of weeks. And here's the great thing about, for once, the Democrats have an amazing farm team. For once, the Democrats have options here that aren't painful or constrained by the intra-party politics of the Democratic system. The progressives aren't laying down on the railroad tracks. The pro-business types aren't laying down on the railroad tracks. Everybody just wants her to make the best choice, which is a real gift. I mean, it's a phenomenal gift. And I think this really speaks to the evolution of the two parties. Because for a long time, Republicans could always predict what the Democrats were going to do. They could always say, oh, they're going to pick the most liberal, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not wrong. And it used to be the case. But right now, Vice President Harris has every option in the world. And there are a lot of people in the hunt. And frankly, I look at all of them with a pretty open eye. I can see strengths and weaknesses, but I see a lot more strengths than weaknesses. And I'll tell you why. I look at a guy like Mark Kelly, and I think, wow, credentialed astronaut, military guy, a personal narrative that won't quit, high numbers in a swing state. You look at a guy like Josh Shapiro, one of the very best governors in the country. And I'm not talking by like a little, I'm talking like a lot. You look at Gretchen Whitmer, who says she's out of the race, but you know what? If they called, you answer when they call. Another one of the best governors in the country, a stellar economic record, an absolutely fantastic economic record in Michigan. You look at Andy Beshear, the guy has charisma for days. You look at Waltz, helps in Michigan, helps in Wisconsin, helps Minnesota, all that upper tier stuff. And Waltz comes across as a bro, as a dude, as an old guy who's like sharp and funny and friendly and smart. And it's been a good governor. We have a lot of options, folks. And I've left people off the table here, okay? I've left a lot of people off the table. Those are the ones we're hearing about, talking about. And all those people would be phenomenal choices. Which is, of course, would be great in an ordinary year. It's even better this year. Because let me tell you, and I've talked about this a little bit already, but the buyer's remorse about JD Vance is insane. Trump is like a caged animal. He's like a fox caught in a trap trying to gnaw off a leg right now to escape. That's how much he hates JD Vance. He's embarrassed. Trump is humiliated. He got played. He got played because Elon Musk dangled $45 million a month in front of him if he picked JD Vance. He got played because Peter Thiel said, oh, he's my guy, Donald. I could be very helpful if you pick my guy. He got played because Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles were like, whatever they want, Mr. Trump, he's a wonderful choice. We don't need to worry. We've got this race locked up for you. It's all done. Yeah. How's that working out for you guys? The buyer's remorse is so pungent. It's so strong. The rot coming off of JD Vance. Look, he's performing like an Olympic gymnast in the 1970s where He's out flipping back and forth, doing every contortion he can possibly do because he knows if he doesn't get a gold medal, his parents go to the work camp. I mean, this guy, he's so desperate. He's out swinging for every pitch right now. And it's just sad. It's just sad to watch. But whoever the Democratic vice presidential candidate is going to have one moment with JD Vance on stage. And there's never been an easier target in a vice presidential debate. Never. This guy has craziness stacked 20 miles deep. This guy has quotes about families, the cat lady stuff. He didn't say that stuff about like childless people once or twice. There are now about a dozen times he said it, and he said it on podcasts. He said it in writing. He said it on video. This is a frame that whoever the dude is, and folks, it's going to be a guy. Most 90% is going to be a guy. Let's just leave that on the table for now. But when the moment comes and JD Vance walks on stage with any of these Democratic vice presidential candidates, he is going to be scared shitless because Trump is really, really, really on edge. He's so nervous. He's so mad at JD. He's so mad at everybody who helped him push JD, including, by the way, Don Jr. and Eric the Slow. Those two morons were also like jumping up and down, pick me, pick JD. JD's a good guy. They all talked Trump into this. And Donald, if you're listening, and I know you have a staff person who listens, because you just do. We know you. Donald, if you're listening, it's not too late. You could make a change. You could change him to anybody. You could pick someone crazier. What about Tucker? You should pick Tucker, Donald. Pick Tucker. Pick Tucker. Please, I beg you, pick Tucker. But all kidding aside, folks, you've got the single weakest vice presidential candidate in American history. And beating Trump and Vance really now takes on an added significance. Because JD Vance was the gussied up, painted, made over version of an awful lot of this alt-right garbage that has redefined what the Republican Party once was. The natalist, white demographic panic is wrapped up in Nazi Care Bear over there. The guy is a person with whom the Peter Thiels and the David Saxes and the Elon Musks and the various Silicon Valley oligarch types, they all know Trump's a moron. They get it. They know he's an idiot. They think Trump is a slack-jawed yokel, and they're right. But what they're missing in this, and what everybody's missing in this, was that JD Vance, who they thought was the glittering future of this right-wing nativist movement, the guy's a fuck-up. The guy's an idiot. He's a dumb, smart person. What is a dumb, smart person? It's one of those things that I as I've grown older, I've discovered being smart is great. I'm pretty smart. I'm a pretty smart guy. Okay. Being smart is fantastic. But being able to interact with people, being able to have normal interactions and relationships with other human beings is a superpower. Being able to talk to people appropriately is a superpower. Being your authentic, genuine self is a superpower. You know why I think that Vance really screwed this up? Because he got famous by performing a stunt about his background. And it was always built on this like concatenating series of lies and this elaborate skein of bullshit about who he was. And so it wasn't just that he could be raised in a lower middle class family. It had to be down in the holler where they were shooting up meth every day or whatever the fuck it was, right? But see, he got famous by being this iconoclastic figure, this I'm now an elite. I've gone to an Ivy. I've credentialed myself. Now I'm better than those people. It's dishonest. It's not who he really is. The guy wants to crawl out of his own skin every minute of the day. Okay. He hates himself. You can see it. He hates himself. And when you hate yourself, people hate you. When you hate yourself, you make it easy for other people to hate you. And Donald Trump hates him now. Donald Trump is making phone calls. And I told you this, guys, about a day after he got the nomination. Trump was like, maybe he's not that great on TV. Maybe we could swap him out. The context of the phone calls right now isn't who he's going to fire. It's calling like, what do you think about how JD's doing? I don't think he's doing very well. And he's building up this this mosaic in his mind of reasons to fire JD Vance. Now, I think it would be hilariously disastrous if he fired him at this point. It would be ludicrously comic if he fired him at this point. It would set the Trump campaign back even more than it's already set itself back over and over again. And it would cause, I think, a big rift inside that Silicon Valley matrix of people that support Donald Trump. Those folks are very smug right now, very satisfied they got their way. And a lot of them are probably thinking, well, even if Trump goes down, our guy JD was the vice presidential nominee. That makes him first next time. Au contraire, gentlemen. Let me acquaint you with a little bit of presidential history. Big primaries happen to vice presidents. Watch what happens. 1988 QED. There is no system anymore of it's X's turn. JD Vance won't be JD's turn next time around, because he's not building up, and he will not be allowed to build up a separate infrastructure around himself in this campaign. He will be the couch fucker. He will be the dolphin porn guy. He will be the guy who clownishly was memed to death in this campaign. And it's fantastic. So Donald, I know you feel regret. I know you feel chagrin. I know you feel shame that JD Vance is not as good on TV as he should be, because he's not. You should have known that. It's also a shame that the Vance campaign in Ohio, the opposition research book that they provided the Trump team this year about JD's vulnerabilities, was sadly incomplete. They're learning new stuff about JD every day. It is not good. It is bad. They're going to push this guy out there until they don't. They're going to keep him going until they kill him. And I think his odds of survival are pretty low, because, as you may have heard at one point, an eccentric genius said, everything Trump touches dies. JD, you're up. Hey, folks, it's Rick Wilson, and welcome back to the Enemies List podcast, brought to you by Resolute Square. I am with my good friend Joe Walsh today, and Joe and I have been having a pretty good time the last few days. I got to say, I think we've turned a big corner in the 2024 election. And Joe, welcome back to the program. As always, great to see you. Let's talk a little bit about where you see the state of the race after President Biden has decided to turn over the reins of this pony to Vice President Harris.
Hey, Rick, always good to be with you, brother. Look, I smiled for the first time when Trump picked JD Vance. I mean, you think about it, right? Like Trump was on about a month and a half roll there where everything was going his way. And then that day, Rick, he made a fucking mistake, an unforced error.
Oh.
And I remember smiling for the first time, and now that's really come back to bite him in the butt.
JD Vance was an example of shitting the bed politically that only Donald Trump could really engage in. I mean, any other campaign would have fired its strategists, its oppo people. It would have absolutely been a 5-alarm fire. And it took Trump a few days to actually figure out that he'd actually been kind of played by his own people who wanted this guy for their own reasons. And now he's just been like a walking gaffe machine. I mean, you and I are both old enough to remember Dan Quayle. That guy looked like Winston Churchill compared to JD Vance.
Well, and Rick, everybody listening to us needs to understand what a mistake that was. If Trump that day, few weeks ago, had picked Rubio or Glenn Youngkin or even Nikki Haley, as somebody who doesn't want Trump anywhere near the White House, I would have been deflated.
Yeah. Sure, no
Utterly
question.
deflated.
Look, if it had been Nikki Haley, it would have turned this election into a very dark place for the Democrats, in my opinion.
Yeah. Even with Biden stepping down,
Yep.
this is still a really tough race. But now with JD Vance there and the vice president now, Kamala Harris, the pick, the nominee, I've just been blown away, Rick, by all the enthusiasm, the way all this coalesced around her. It's pretty cool.
The only thing I can even get close to the feeling of, and people are going to find this, I don't know, maybe weird, is 2016. When guys like us were like, what the fuck is going on here? Why do all these people love this guy Trump? And I think the Republicans are feeling that right now about Vice President Harris. I think they're like, wait, what? We said she was weak and bad. Why aren't they hating her? And yet the as you said, the enthusiasm has been so high. The upbeat campaign she's been running so far, I feel like it's kind of like an antidote to some of the crap that people have just been like forced into for the last couple of years of this just like endless Trump drama. And it's like, hey, I'm going to be a happy warrior. I'm going to go out and have a campaign where I laugh and I enjoy myself, and we run a good campaign and people get fired up about it.
And you, Rick Wilson, have dissected and diagnosed Donald Trump through the years better than anybody on this planet. I don't think Donald Trump knows how to deal with her. I mean, he himself, I don't.
Joe, you couldn't be more correct. This guy is trying hard to process some kind of strategy, some kind of way to get to her. And, he's road tested 4 or 5 different things like border czar. Nope, didn't work. Lion Kamala didn't work. And like trying to still run against, he's trying to still running against Barack Obama and Joe Biden. That's not going to work either, Donnie. But I mean, it is striking to me that the tone change literally within hours of the president leaving. And you and I, we've talked about like the pain of leaving your party behind.
Yes.
But I don't think that's anything like the pain of like walking away from the presidency. That took a level. That was a level of sacrifice. I don't have any like personal ability to imagine it.
Rick, you walk away from the seat of power willingly, contrasted with a guy who committed crimes, abused his office, and incited a violent attempt to overthrow an election, all to hang on to power. History will look back fondly upon Joe Biden.
I was in a discussion the other day with some people and with some MAGA types, frankly.
Yeah.
And I said, look, this is the boldest thing I've ever seen in politics by an order of magnitude. And I've been around a long time.
Yeah.
Nothing's braver. I said, this guy deserves to be on Mount Rushmore at this point. And the butthurt whining, Trump deserves to be, he's the best. And I'm just like, you guys, he is a giant pussy. He is a terrible person. He's weak. He's soft. And I don't care about the battle of wounded ear. Whatever that monstrous little shit kid was going to do, he was going to do to whoever he found. It wasn't about Trump. It was about wanting to kill somebody famous.
Yeah.
And that doesn't excuse it by any stretch of the imagination. But this thing didn't turn out to be the heroic narrative Trump wanted it to be.
Exactly.
And the ear tampon for 4 days, 5 days, suddenly revealing the miraculously healed ear. None of it made Trump look good. None of it made Trump look like a man. He's just a weak person. And I weirdly, I think, what do you think about this? I mean, I've been saying this the last couple of days. I'm trying to like work the thought through in my head. I think Harris has a chance to run to Trump's right on national security, even on the border, where she can be the strong player, whereas he is basically weak.
She can be the pro-America player.
There it
right?
is.
Like Rick, and you're in my lifetime when you and I were young boys, the left, right, generally was the blame America first crowd.
Oh,
you
yeah.
and I have seen the right, the MAGA right now is the Blame America First crowd. Absolutely, Kamala Harris should get to the right of him on that stuff. She can be actually, it's a vulnerability. The border is a vulnerability for her.
It's real.
She should take your advice and get tougher on it and try to get to Trump's right. Because, Trump doesn't give a fuck about any of this stuff.
No, for Trump, it is all whatever gets you through the night.
And Rick, look, James Carville, great guy. He came down a few days ago and said, "Get over your giddiness, Democrats." I think the giddiness is good, and I hope they keep this up. But you and I know that when it comes to the battleground states, Trump still has some edges and advantages here that she's got to go after.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard road to hoe. I mean, there's this all the things that are moving in the right direction, folks.
Yes.
There's no vector in this race that's going the wrong way, but that won't get us home by itself.
What's your biggest concern for her candidacy?
Look, Joe, it's a great question actually, and my biggest concern really is that when they take the first hard punch, they'll get defensive, and they'll get in a crouch, which they must not do. I'm publicly giving advice I can't give in private because it's a super PAC. I'm telling you, if when they take a punch, and they will take a punch, Joe, you and I both know this, they're going to get smacked in the face at some point. And that's what campaigns are. But they need to keep out don't get defensive, go back on the attack on Trump when it happens. That's my biggest, Yeah,
and Rick, you said something at the top of this conversation. Right now, she's a happy warrior. Yeah. Keep that up. Even when you're punching him and you're kicking him, with a smile.
Do it with a smile.
Happy warrior.
And my biggest advice to her will be, when there's a moment in this campaign when they're on a stage together, or he's yelling at her, or he's trying to intimidate her during a debate, the number one piece of advice I could give her is just look at him and laugh in his fucking face. He cannot handle mockery. That's why everybody's freaking out in the Trump world. Like the weird attack is making them so angry. I mean, I haven't seen anything take off like that virally in a long time. Have you?
Well, and what the fuck, Rick? Like, I know Junior and others pushed JD on him.
Oh yeah.
Did they not vet this guy at all? I don't get this.
So it's like Oppo 101 is the first target you do is yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep waking up thinking that the rumor I had heard a few weeks ago when he was in consideration was they said, oh, well, we'd have to vet him fully. And JD Vance's friends, and that could have been Peter Thiel, but I can't confirm it. Yeah. People who were pushing JD Vance says, oh, no, he was in the Senate race. They vetted him.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello.
No. being in a congressional or a Senate race, y'all, is not the same vetting as a presidential. Ain't nothing.
I'm going to ask you something, my Trump whisperer. I know we live in times when Trump is capable of anything.
Sure.
But do you really envision a scenario where he might push JD aside and grab somebody else?
I think it's going to be real tough for him to do that. JD's got a lot of very wealthy protectors in Trump's circle.
Yes.
Peter Thiel, David Sachs, Elon Musk, all these guys who love JD Vance.
Oh, yeah.
But I can tell you one thing I know about Donald Trump. He's never kept a vow to a business partner, a family member, or a wife that he hasn't been willing to break for the least moment, for the most momentary of conveniences for himself.
Yeah.
This is not a good guy. This is not a guy who is ever going to say, "Oh, I need to protect him. I committed to him." Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, exactly. But no, you nailed it, Rick. Look, she could not have dreamed of a first week like this. Everything is going right. She's got her VP pick coming up probably first thing next week, then the convention. She's on a roll right now, and Trump's going to feel like off the front page. He's going to have a really hard time these next few weeks.
Joe, I couldn't agree more. I think that is one of the things that you and I both know. This guy, he craves attention. He craves it. like an addict craves attention.
Yeah.
And that addiction to attention is what's going to eat him alive while she's in the middle of the spotlight. He's angry right now. Man, if I was working for Trump, I would stay the fuck away, as far away from him as I could. He is going to be throwing ketchup. He's pissed off. And I will say this about Donald Trump. I will acknowledge this about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a terrible monster of a human being. But he has a very, very, very strong sense of popularity, of media, of celebrity, of attention. And right now, I think he's laying awake at night going, shit. I've got Kid Rock and she's going to have Taylor Swift. Shit.
Yes.
She's got George Clooney and I've got Hulk Hogan. I don't think I think the cultural overlay of this thing, man, is going to be gigantic.
Well, I think, Rick, it's true. And I think it's killing him because he came out of that convention hoping to be flying. The assassination attempt, which was utterly horrible. He's clearly hoping that would have helped him. And then all of a sudden, out of the gate, Biden steps down. Here comes Kamala, and away they go. And he just seems like he's whining and crying every single day.
You know what? It is. I've been saying this a lot. I think you'd agree with this. They didn't have a plan B. They didn't have another option. They thought this was the way they were going to do it was locked in stone. They were going to run against old Joe Biden, and that was that. And man, I keep going back to this. It's like what the malpractice of this campaign just shocks me.
After, Rick, again, this is so important because I know we get into the day-to-day battle, but I was miserable before the JD Vance pick because Donald Trump was on a roll. Everything was going his way.
I've never seen 5 weeks of luck like that in my career, because I've seen times when your candidate is on top of the world, and I've seen times when your candidate gets snake bit, and Trump could not pull a bad card out of the deck for weeks.
Well, that's an amazing thing for you to say.
Oh, listen,
you've seen it all.
I've been to the rodeo, but I was like, there were days I was like, come on, this guy. I mean, Biden couldn't catch a break and Trump couldn't catch a hit, and now Trump has been like a punching bag since the convention started. He's had some bad voodoo around him, and once he picked Vance, the clock was running. They had a moment in time to make Vance something and for Trump to exploit and gain a bounce after the convention, but they couldn't convert. They just couldn't convert, and here we are in a world now where JD Vance is 20 points upside down from where he was. 20 points. That's insanity.
Rick, we've never had anything like it. Not Palin, not Quayle. We've never had anything like this.
Nothing even close. Nothing even close. And for all that, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think such a big part of it, Rick, is the shit he's said. I don't know how a woman votes for him. I mean, the shit he's said about the catless single women who haven't had babies. I mean, this is just ugly stuff.
Joe, it's like a fucking death wish.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're sitting around going, hey, my big message that I'm going to spend my first week as the vice presidential candidate cleaning up on is childless cat ladies. I mean, think again, bro, because this is not the world you want to live in. I mean, he really has screwed the pooch on that. And I'm kind of fascinated by how bad. Look, I knew he could be terrible. I knew he was not a great candidate. I knew that from 2022.
Yeah.
And you know, we tried to help Tim Ryan, and his people were like, we're pure progressives. We don't need your help. Please no. I'm like, okay, suit yourselves. See how that goes for you.
Yeah.
But in that race, I was fascinated to see just how bad he was. And while he won because Peter Thiel wrote a $50 million check. It wasn't because JD Vance is some sort of superstar candidate. And as Ohio, this is not a guy. This is not a guy who set the world on fire. He just muscled his way over with a lot of Silicon Valley checks. And while that is lovely, if you can, nice work if you can get it. I found the whole thing to be like a real clue that this guy was an overpriced political stock.
Yes. He underperformed. He had to be carried to that victory. You're right, in Ohio. And
I mean, DeWine ran ahead of him by what, like 400,000 votes or something?
Oh, a bunch. Yeah. So again, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Kamala's got work to do. She's energized her base. The enthusiasm's off the charts. I don't think we understand how important that is. Like Obama in 2008, there's something going on right now.
There is, and again, folks, it doesn't mean we can take our foot off the gas. It doesn't mean we can say, oh, if this is in the bag, because it's not in the bag. Nothing's in the bag. Run through the tape, as we always say. But there is a degree of, like, I'm watching it with fascination because we don't see it very frequently. And in my lifetime, I've seen it twice. Ronald Reagan and Barack Obama.
Yes.
I think both of those men captured something at that moment in the culture, and the world opened up for them politically.
Yes.
And I don't see. I mean, look, can Trump come back? He's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of people. He's got a news network. His audience is very loyal. But Trump will never have an easy day going forward. He will never have a simple day going forward.
No, and I agree with you, Rick, but I will say this, and you may disagree, and it may piss off everybody listening to us. If the election were held tomorrow electorally, I think at this point Trump wins electorally.
He still has a lot of advantages, folks. A lot of advantages. Don't mistake it.
Absolutely. He will not win the popular vote, but electorally, I think he wins tomorrow. But I do agree with you that Kamala has a clear road and she's tapped into something, and Trump does not know how. He doesn't understand it.
No,
he's not going to know how to deal with it.
Right, and again, it's like the Taylor Swift generation versus the Lee Greenwood generation. It is not the same fight that it was a few days ago, and it's not the same fight that Trump prepared for 2 years to have.
Yes.
So, well, Joe Walsh, my friend, we're going to talk many more times in the next few weeks before the election hits us. Thank you so much for coming on the enemies list today. I appreciate you as always, my brother.
Thank you, Rick Wilson.
We'll talk again soon, my friend.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Rick.